Hello, maltitious malt bakers, and thank you to Andreas Niegemann for providing, Niegemann 868, right? Got to include the numbers now, it's all part of the online profile and identity. Welcome to Ralphie Review 1007 Extras, in which, as we get to the end of 2023, and we're not quite there yet, but we're looking forward to 2024, I want to take the opportunity in this Extras to give you 3 simple pieces of advice from a very experienced whiskey drinker for you wherever you are in your whiskey journey, or should I say your spirits journey. And I'm kind of conscious as I overview the online whiskey scene, particularly the Scotch whisky scene, that people are getting increasingly what's called invested. So people are increasingly buying into the scene, socialising inside the scene, and are succumbing to spending more and more money on whisky. Whether it's for drinking now or whether for stashing up for the future, because in a few years' time, the way inflation's going, quality spirits are going to be a lot more expensive than they are now. And when I say inflation, I'm not just talking about British inflation. In the United Kingdom, in Scotland, which is eye-wateringly self-evident, I'm talking about global inflation, which is a very real thing. We're not really seeing it happen overtly yet, but it will over the next few years. So my 3 pieces of advice, and I'm going to keep it simple and straightforward, are: wherever you are in your whiskey journey, give your palate a rest. Piece of advice number 1. Rest your palate. It is very easy for us to be pouring night after night just one wee whiskey, couple of wee whiskies. It's not big quantity of alcohol. We're sipping slowly. We're having it with a glass of water. Therefore, we're managing our health. But the problem is that we're constantly challenging our palate, our sense of smell and our sense of taste, and the brain's ability to interpret it. That is constantly working in top gear to process, arrange, and archive all the different smell and tastes that we're experiencing. Because even within one bottle of whiskey, as it oxidizes, as our palate gets more used to it, as we get more familiar with it, malt mates, I'm just telling you, you get that much more out of that single bottle of whiskey. There's more flavour in there, there's more smells in there, but particular flavour and sensations that we've not spotted before, but suddenly we're spotting because our brain is increasingly in an experienced position to actually interpret the complexity of what's going on. So I know we're surrounded by the more heavy drinkers, the more volume drinkers, the more binge drinkers, who decide that they're going to, after a sober October, they're going to have a dry January. But I'm going to recommend to you that you take about 2 weeks out and don't touch a drop of alcohol. It's a good exercise. Not only does it rest your palate, it rests your internal organs, particularly your poor old liver that has to do all that work in breaking down alcohol. But also it just rests us holistically. It also reminds us that we're not alcohol dependent. It reminds us that we can step away and control ourselves for at least 14 days. And if we can do that, it's a good indicator that we're not becoming an alcoholic. Alcoholism can happen suddenly, or it can happen very, very slowly and creep up over time. Be aware of this, malt mates. Be aware of this. So give your palate a rest. Sure, a glass of wine, if you really want, maybe a few beers, ales, but not spirits. Give your palate a rest from spirits. The beginning of the year is a good place to start. My second piece of advice is, before you buy whiskey, put your purchases in a timer. I'm noticing that people are increasingly jumping in to buy certain bottlings simply because of brand recognition or name. They're not checking to see if the batch is any good. They're not checking to get feedback as to whether there's been any significant variation in the quality of the bottling from the previous batch. So do your research, even with whiskies that you're familiar with, brands you know, flavour profiles that you clearly are familiar with and identify and enjoy, but don't be in a rush to buy these bottlings. Do your research. Online is the place to go. Books are too dated. They date too quickly. You can't get that information there. It's got to be online, whether you are in Reddit or Facebook platforms, in singular whisky clubs. In other words, whisky clubs that are dedicated to a certain single malt whisky distillery. Because, you know, Macallan has their specialist club, the enthusiast clubs, obviously so does Springbank. But you'll find that there's an enthusiast clubs for Edradour, for Caol Ila, for Royal Brackla, for Glenmoray. And when you can tap into the knowledge of the aficionados, of the enthusiasts who know so much about these distilleries, you're getting information way ahead of what I can give you as a reviewer. Right, but you got to go and hunt this down, but it's worth it. When you have more of an insight, you can slow down the pace or the rush to buy whiskies because you're doing your research. And if it's gone, it's gone. Don't worry about it. There's millions of casks of whiskey out there. If something exclusive has suddenly disappeared, be patient. There'll be another one along shortly. Just like a bus, just like waiting at a train station. There'll always be another one out there on its way. And finally, do more exploration. It's quite easy for us to make things convenient, easy, handy, and unchallenging to ourselves. To institutionalize our palate in a certain profile of a certain whiskey or bourbon or rum or cognac or whatever. Because we like a certain brand and therefore we buy other brands that are similar to that brand. And therefore, if you like, for example, great example, Glenfarclas, which is generally an affordable, full-flavoured single malt whiskey. You can say, I like Glenfarclas, therefore I like sherried whiskies. So you buy Aberlour Abernathy, you buy Edradour cask matured, you buy anything from independent bottlers that's been in a first full Oloroso cask, because we are institutionalising our palate for this fresh sherry, particularly PX or Oloroso experience. And it becomes a bit of a shock actually when someone hands us a glass of, say, Craigellachie or Glenallachie or Benrinnes or Benromach, which has been matured exclusively in an ex-bourbon cask, particularly an ex-refill bourbon cask, second fill bourbon cask. And it's not something that we gravitate to because of our habits, and we all are creatures of habits. Don't try to deny it. We all are. It's something that I really appreciate myself as an online whiskey commentator, that I've been opening different bottles of whiskey and a tremendous range of whiskies and some other spirits as well for the last 14 years, a bottle every single week. Sometimes it's been twice a week for a couple of years. I mean, that's a lot of whiskey to get through. And the result is that my palate is incredibly diverse in what I actually enjoy. I never limit myself to an experience, and I never limit myself even to a specific style of spirit. So I'm very happy to go beyond Scotch single malt whisky and buy, particularly for my palate, rums. And I started with British style rums, Jamaican, Bajan from Barbados, Guyanian rums, these molasses style of rums from pot stills. But I have moved on, and I really enjoy some of the column still sugarcane extract or sugarcane juice rather than molasses styles of French rum that you get from Guadeloupe and Martinique. You know, they've got wonderful complexity, wonderful flavours, and they really go, a good rum will go toe to toe with a good whisky any day. I'd like to say the same about bourbon, but so much, about 95% of all bourbons produced are produced by a handful of corporate companies who are producing for a mass market. That's what they're doing. Really good bourbons, and they're out there. We know they are. You've tasted them. I've tasted them. They're magnificent. But there's too little of them. And that's one reason why the price for them are so damn high. And most of them stay in the USA, and quite right too. But explore, Maltmates. Use next year as a launch pad to buy a bottle of something that you don't anticipate that you would have used to enjoy. But you know it's quality because you've done your research. And you've done your research because you're coming back refreshed to your whisky journey. Why? Because you've rested your palate for at least a couple of weeks. And it's not just a couple of weeks once a year, it's several times a year. Let your palate rest. Let it just kind of chill out for a little bit. And then when you start to use it again, you'll find that you're learning all the faster because you've been able to just let your archive catch up with the archiving of all this complex array of smell and taste and sensations all jumbled up together in the magnificent experiences that are single malt whisky and other quality spirits. Hope you've enjoyed this little extras. I'm Ralphie from the Bothy, wishing you well. If you've enjoyed this, leave a comment, like, subscribe if you haven't, because I'm full of whisky information and I'm providing an awful lot more in 2024. And I look forward to the end of the year actually, because I see it as a moment of renewal. It's a tangible opportunity to renew. And I always clean the house, because when I clean my house, vacuum out, cleaning down the kitchen, wiping all the cupboards and everything, what it does for me is it helps clean out mentally by doing a physical clean. So I recommend that wherever you're whisky bothy, check over your bottles, check your bottles you've bought, make sure that the lids are on tight and the seals are intact. Take the end of the year as an opportunity to do your whisky, bourbon, rum housekeeping. Just see what you've got, take stock of things and prepare for some big adventures in 2024. I'm Ralphie from the Bothy, and I certainly endorse this review from me to you. Bye-bye.